The stars outside the window never changed. Yuna had counted them many times during her 8 months alone on orbital waypoint 17. She knew every flicker, every distant sun, every patch of darkness between them. The station was old and tired, just like her spirit had become. Yuna was 32 years old. She had black hair that she kept in a simple ponytail and warm brown eyes that had seen too much loneliness. Back on Earth, she had been a rising engineer with a bright future. But she made a mistake at her old job. A small error that cost the company money. They did not fire her. Instead, they sent her here, to the edge of known space, to watch over a dying station until the crews came to tear it apart. 8 months of talking to herself. 8 months of eating the same tasteless food packets. 8 months of silence so deep it felt like drowning. She was in the middle of fixing a broken air filter when the alarm screamed through the station. Red lights flashed along the metal walls. Yuna dropped her tools and ran to the control room, her boots echoing in the empty hallways. The screen showed something impossible. A small ship was coming toward the station very fast. Too fast. It was not slowing down. Yun watched with wide eyes as the ship crashed into the docking bay. The whole station shook. Metal groaned and twisted. Then everything went quiet again. She grabbed her emergency kit and a small weapon from the wall. Her hands were shaking as she made her way to the docking bay. The doors had been damaged by the impact, and she had to force them open with a metal bar. Inside the bay, smoke filled the air. The crashed ship was small, barely bigger than a rescue pod. Its hull was torn open. Strange symbols were painted on its side, symbols that made Yuna's blood run cold. She knew those symbols. Everyone in the galaxy knew them. HFY. The Velthari were the most feared predators in known space. They stood 7 feet tall with scales like armor and claws that could cut through steel. Their eyes could see heat, which meant hiding from them was nearly impossible. The Coalition had fought 3 wars against them. Millions had died. Children grew up hearing stories about the Velthari, monsters who ate their enemies. Yuna's finger moved to her emergency beacon. One press and Coalition forces would come. One press and she would be safe. But something stopped her. The pod was too small for adult Velthari. And there was a sound coming from inside. A sound she did not expect. Crying. Not the roar of a predator. Not the hiss of a hunter. Just small, sad crying. Yuna moved closer. Her heart was beating so hard she could hear it in her ears. She climbed onto the broken pod and looked through a crack in the hull. 3 small figures huddled together in the darkness. They were covered in scales of deep blue and green. Their eyes glowed golden in the dim light. They were shaking with fear. Cubs. Velthari cubs. They were so small. The biggest one might reach her waist if it stood up. Their scales were dull and rough, not shiny like healthy Velthari should be. They were thin, hungry, scared. One of the cubs looked up at her. Its golden eyes met her brown ones. It hissed weakly, trying to seem dangerous, but it was too tired, too broken. Yuna looked deeper into the pod. In the pilot's seat, she saw an adult Velthari. A female. She was not moving. Dark blood covered her chest. Her eyes were closed forever. Their mother. She had died flying them here. Died trying to save her children. Yuna stood there for a long time. The emergency beacon was still in her hand. Protocol was clear. She had to report any Velthari presence immediately. These were enemy aliens. Dangerous predators. Even cubs could be deadly. But looking at them now, all she saw were 3 orphans. 3 children who had just lost their mother. 3 small lives that had nowhere else to go. She thought about her own mother. How she used to hold Yuna when she was scared. How she used to sing soft songs until the fear went away. What would her mother think if Yuna pressed that beacon? If she sent these babies to be captured or killed? Una put the beacon back in her pocket. She climbed down from the pod and found a blanket in her emergency kit. Moving slowly, speaking softly, she approached the opening in the hull. The cubs pressed back against the wall. The biggest one stood in front of the others, claws raised, teeth showing. It was trying to protect its siblings. Even now, even scared and weak, it was being brave. "It is okay," Una said gently. "I will not hurt you." The cub did not understand her words, but maybe it understood her voice. Its claws lowered slightly. Its hissing grew quieter. Una placed the blanket at the opening and stepped back. She sat down on the floor of the docking bay, making herself small and unthreatening. She waited for a long time. Nothing happened. The cubs watched her. She watched them. The smoke slowly cleared from the air. Then the smallest cub moved. It crept forward, sniffing the blanket. Its siblings made warning sounds, but it kept going. It touched the soft fabric with its claws and made a small noise of wonder. It had probably never felt anything so soft before. The cub looked at Una. She smiled at it. Something in that smile must have meant something. The cub grabbed the blanket and pulled it back to its siblings. The three of them wrapped themselves in it together, still watching her, still afraid, but a little less than before. Una stayed with them through the night. She did not sleep. She just sat there, being present, being patient. When morning came according to the station clock, she stood up slowly. "I will bring you food," she told them. "Stay here. You are safe." She walked back through the damaged doors, leaving them alone with their blanket and their grief. In the control room, Una looked at the communication panel. She could still report them. She could still do the right thing according to the rules. Instead, she went to the food storage and picked out the freshest packets she could find. She heated them up and carried them back to the docking bay. The cubs watched her put the food near the pod. They did not come out while she was there. But when she returned an hour later, the food was gone. Una smiled to herself. It was a small thing. Just some food and a blanket. But it was a start. She did not know what would happen next. She did not know how long she could hide them or what she would do when the decommissioning crews arrived. All she knew was that she could not turn away from children in need. Not even if they had claws. Not even if the galaxy called them monsters. For the first time in 8 months, Una did not feel alone. The days passed slowly on the station. Una fell into a new routine. Every morning, she prepared food and left it near the damaged pod. Every evening, she found the plates empty. But the cubs never showed themselves when she was watching. They had moved into the ventilation shafts. Una could hear them sometimes, their small claws clicking against the metal. She could feel them watching her through the grates in the walls. Golden eyes following her everywhere she went. She did not chase them. She did not try to trap them. She simply lived her life and let them observe. At first, they were completely wild. One morning, Una found deep scratches on her storage containers. The cubs had tried to break in during the night. Another time, she heard them fighting over food in the vents, hissing and growling at each other. They were hungry and scared and did not trust anything. But Una was patient. She started talking to them even when she could not see them. She would tell them about her day, about the repairs she was making, about her life back on Earth. She told them about her grandmother, who had raised her after her parents died in an accident. She told them about the small house where she grew up, with a garden full of flowers and a kitchen that always smelled like cooking rice. The cubs did not understand her words, but they listened. She could tell by the way the clicking in the vents would stop when she spoke. They were paying attention. 2 weeks after the crash, Una started humming while she worked. Old songs that her grandmother used to sing. Lullabies from Korea, soft and sweet. Songs about mountains and rivers and children who dreamed of flying. That was when the cubs started getting closer. the biggest one came first. Yuna learned to think of it as Rin, though she did not know if it had a real name. Rin would sit in the vent opening near her workstation, watching her fix machines. Its golden eyes never blinked. It was studying her, learning about her. Then came the middle one, the one Yuna called Kessa. Kessa was curious about everything. It would sneak out when Yuna left tools on the floor and play with them. More than once, Yuna found her equipment taken apart into tiny pieces. It annoyed her at first, but then she realized that Kessa was trying to understand how things worked. It was smart. The smallest one was Bora. Bora was shy and scared. It stayed in the vents longer than its siblings, watching from the darkness. But when it finally came out, it liked to sit near Yuna while she ate her meals. Not close enough to touch, just close enough to share the space. 1 month after the crash, the cubs slept outside the vents for the first time. They made a nest of old blankets near the docking bay. Yuna pretended not to notice. Then the heating system broke. Yuna knew it would happen eventually. The station was old and falling apart. She had been keeping it alive with patches and prayers for months. But that night, the main heating unit finally died completely. The temperature dropped fast. Yuna could see her breath in the air within an hour. She put on all the warm clothes she had, but it was not enough. The cold seeped through everything. She thought about the cubs. Velthari were cold-blooded creatures. They needed warmth from outside their bodies. In the wild, they lived on hot planets with 2 suns. Here, in the freezing station, they could die. Yuna grabbed her grandmother's quilt from her quarters. It was old and worn, with patches of different colors sewn together by hand. Her grandmother had made it decades ago, and Yuna had carried it with her everywhere she went. It was her most precious possession, the only thing that still connected her to home. She wrapped herself in the quilt and went to find the cubs. They were not in their nest. They were not in the vents. She searched the whole station, calling for them, growing more and more worried. Finally, she found them huddled together in a corner of the engineering room. They were pressing against a machine that still produced a little warmth. Their scales had turned pale. Their golden eyes were dim. They were too cold to even hiss at her. Yuna did not think. She simply acted. She sat down next to them and spread the quilt over all 4 of them. The cubs flinched but did not run. They were too cold to move. Yuna pulled them closer, wrapping her arms around their shivering bodies. "It is okay," she whispered. "I will keep you warm. I promise." Rin looked at her with confused eyes. In its short life, it had never been shown kindness by anything that was not Velthari. Yuna was prey. She was supposed to fear them. She was supposed to run. But instead, she was holding them like a mother holds her children. They stayed like that through the night. Yuna barely slept, too focused on keeping the cubs warm. She rubbed their scales gently to create heat. She hummed her grandmother's lullabies. She kept talking to them in a soft, steady voice. By morning, the cubs were pressed tight against her body, their cold forms slowly absorbing her heat. Yuna was exhausted and freezing, but she did not move. When the light from the window grew bright, Rin finally relaxed. Its eyes closed, and it slept peacefully against her side. Cassia was curled up on her lap. Bora had actually crawled under the quilt and was pressed against her stomach. Yuna felt tears on her cheeks. Though she did not know when she had started crying, she managed to fix the heating system later that day. It took all her skills and some creative thinking, but she got it working again. The station slowly warmed back up, but the cubs did not return to the vents. That night, Yuna went to bed in her small quarters. She was almost asleep when she heard the door open. She kept her eyes closed, pretending not to notice. Small feet crossed the floor. The bed shifted as weight was added to it. 3 small bodies pressed against hers, seeking the warmth they had discovered the night before. Rin's golden eyes met hers in the darkness. The cub was tense, ready to flee if she reacted badly. It was testing her, seeing if the kindness from last night was real or just a one-time thing. Una smiled. She lifted the quilt and spread it over all of them. She adjusted it to cover their small bodies completely. Then she closed her eyes and went to sleep. From that night on, the cubs slept in her bed. From that night on, they were no longer wild things hiding in the walls. They were something else, something new. They were family. Una did not know what the future would bring. She did not know how she would explain this to anyone. She did not know if she was being foolish or brave or both. All she knew was that she would never let these children face the cold alone. Again, the quilt that her grandmother had made, with love, now covered 4 bodies instead of 1. Somehow, Una thought her grandmother would approve. The weeks turned into months. The station that had once felt like a prison now felt like a home. Una woke every morning with 3 warm bodies pressed against her. Rin always slept at her back, like a guard protecting her from unseen dangers. Kessa curled up at her feet, often kicking in its sleep as it dreamed of running. Bora was always the closest, tucked under her arm, its small head resting on her shoulder. She had never planned to become a mother. Life had taken her in different directions. Work, career, the endless chase for success. But now, looking at these 3 small creatures who depended on her, she understood something she had never understood before. Love was not something you planned. It was something that found you. Teaching them was hard at first. Valkyrie language was made of clicks and hisses that human mouths could not produce. Human language was made of sounds that Valkyrie throats struggled with. But children learn fast, and these children wanted to learn. Rin was the first to speak a human word. They were eating breakfast together when Rin looked at the food packet and made a sound that was almost like food. Una's eyes went wide. She pointed at the packet and said the word again, slowly and clearly. Rin tried again. This time, it was perfect. After that, the learning came faster. Una would point at things and say their names. The cubs would repeat after her. Door, white, water, hand, eyes, smile. They taught her things too. Rin showed her the Valkyrie sign for danger. A quick movement of the claws that meant, be quiet. Something bad is coming. Kessa taught her the clicking pattern that meant, I am curious about this. Bora taught her the soft hum that meant, I am happy and safe. Slowly, they built a language together. Part human, part Valkyrie, part something entirely new. A language that belonged only to their small family. One evening, Bora crawled into Una's lap while she was reading an old book on her screen. The small cub looked up at her with those big golden eyes and made a sound. A question. What is it? Una asked. Bora pointed at her and then at itself. Then it made the Valkyrie sound for same. Una understood. Bora was asking if they were the same. If they were family. She felt her heart ache in the sweetest way possible. She put down her screen and held Bora close. We are family, she said. I am your Yama now. Amma. The Korean word for mother. Bora tried to say it. Ma. Close enough. The cub nuzzled against her chest, making the happy humming sound. From that day on, all 3 cubs called her Yama. It was the most beautiful word Una had ever heard. As the months passed, Una learned more about what had happened to them. The story came out in pieces, in broken words and painful memories. The cubs came from a colony on a distant planet. Their clan was small but peaceful by Valkyrie standards. They did not raid or fight. They just wanted to live. But another clan came. A bigger, stronger clan that wanted their territory. The fighting was fast and brutal. Most of their clan was killed in the first attack. Their mother grabbed them and ran to the only ship she could find. She put her children inside and flew away. She was already wounded. The blood that Una found in the pod was from a deep cut that never stopped bleeding. Their mother flew for 11 days, getting weaker and weaker, until she found the signal from Una's station. She aimed for it with her last strength. By the time they landed, she was already gone. Rin told this story with empty eyes. It was the oldest. It remembered the most. It remembered hiding while its family was killed. It remembered its mother's last breath. It remembered the 11 days of drifting through cold space with no food and a dying parent. Una held Rin close and let it cry. Valtteri did not make tears, but they made sounds. Deep, painful sounds that came from somewhere inside their chest. Sounds of grief that needed no translation. "You are safe now," Una promised. "No one will hurt you here. I will protect you." Rin looked at her with something new in its eyes. Trust. Complete, unguarded trust. The cubs grew stronger each day. Their scales became shiny and bright. Rin's scales were deep blue like the ocean at night. Cass's were green like forest leaves. Bora's were a mix of both, creating patterns like flowing water. They played games together. Hide and seek was difficult, because the cubs could see heat and always found Una in seconds. But they learned to play fair, closing their special eyes and counting properly. Tag was dangerous at first, because Valtteri claws were sharp, but the cubs learned to be gentle. They only used soft pats instead of grabbing. Cass's love of taking things apart grew into a real skill. Una started giving it broken equipment to fix. At first, Cass just made things more broken. But slowly, it started to understand how machines worked. One day, it fixed a broken light all by itself. Una cheered so loud that Rin came running, thinking there was danger. Bora discovered a love for growing things. Una had a small collection of plants in her quarters, gifts from her last posting that she had somehow kept alive. Bora was fascinated by them. It would spend hours watching the leaves move, the flowers bloom, the stems grow. Una gave Bora its own plant to take care of. The small cub treated it like a treasure. Rin took its role as protector seriously. It followed Una everywhere, watching for any threat. When she did repairs in dangerous parts of the station, Rin stood guard. When she went to sleep at night, Rin checked every room first. It was growing fast now, already reaching her shoulder. One day, it would be tall and strong and fierce. But to Una, it would always be the scared cub she found in a crashed pod. These were the good days. The happy days. Days of learning and laughing and loving. But Una knew they could not last forever. The communication panel blinked with messages from Coalition Command. The decommissioning crews were coming. In 6 weeks, ships would arrive to take apart the station and bring Una back to normal space. She read the messages and felt cold fear in her stomach. What would happen to her cubs? The Coalition would not understand. They would see monsters, not children. They would take Rin and Kessa and Bora away. They would put them in cages or worse. Yun could not let that happen. She started making plans. Maybe she could hide the cubs somewhere on the station. Maybe she could lie to the crews. Maybe she could find a way to escape with them before anyone arrived. Every plan seemed impossible. But she had to try, because she was their Ayala now, and a mother does whatever she must to protect her children. She looked at her little family sleeping peacefully in her bed. 3 predator cubs curled together under a patchwork quilt. And she made a silent promise. No matter what came, she would keep them safe. No matter what it cost her. The patrol ship came without warning. Una was teaching Kessa how to read human words when the alarm sounded. Her blood turned to ice. The decommissioning crews were not supposed to arrive for another 4 weeks. This was something else. She ran to the control room and checked the screens. A coalition military vessel was approaching, fast and aggressive. A patrol ship on a routine inspection route. Una felt panic rise in her throat. There was no time to think. No time to plan. "Cubs!" she called out. "Come to me now." Rin appeared first, followed by Kessa and Bora. They could sense her fear. Rin's claws were out, ready to fight whatever was coming. "No fighting," Una said firmly. "You must hide. Go to the cargo hold, to the place behind the old containers. Do not come out until I come for you. Do not make any sounds. Do you understand?" Rin shook its head. It pointed at Una and then at the door. It wanted to stay with her. It wanted to protect her. Una knelt down and took Rin's claws in her hands. "Please," she said, her voice breaking. "If they find you, they will take you away from me forever. I need you to be brave and hide. Can you do that for Iyama?" Rin's golden eyes filled with something like pain. But it nodded. "Take your siblings. Keep them safe. I will come for you soon." She hugged each of them quickly. Bora was shaking with fear. Kessa looked confused. Rin looked like it was going to war. Then they were gone, disappearing into the station's dark hallways. Una took a deep breath and tried to slow her racing heart. She had to be calm. She had to be convincing. She had to lie better than she had ever lied before. The patrol ship docked 15 minutes later. 8 soldiers came aboard, led by a tall man in a commander's uniform. He had sharp eyes and a hard face. His name tag said Taiho. Why Una recognized his name. Commander Taiho was famous in the coalition. He had led several successful campaigns against Velthari forces. He was known for following rules without question. He was known for being impossible to fool. This was the worst possible person to find. "Engineer Una," Taiho said in a flat voice. "I am conducting a routine inspection of this sector. You are not responding to communication requests." Una swallowed hard. "I am sorry, Commander. The communication system has been having problems. This station is very old." Taiho looked around the docking bay. His eyes stopped on the crashed Velthari pod. Una had covered it with sheets and old equipment, but it was still clearly visible. "What is that?" he asked. "Space debris," Una answered quickly. "It crashed here months ago. Just rocks and broken metal. Nothing important." Taiho walked toward the pod. Una's heart was beating so fast she thought she might collapse. He pulled back one of the sheets and looked at the Velthari symbols on the hull. "This is a Velthari escape pod," he said quietly. "Why did you not report this?" I did not know what it was," Una lied. "I thought it was just old equipment." Taiho turned to look at her. His eyes were cold. "You are a trained engineer. You would recognize Velthari design immediately. Do not lie to me." Una said nothing. There was nothing she could say. "Search the station," Taiho ordered his soldiers. "Find whatever else she is hiding." The next hour was the longest of Una's life. She watched the soldiers spread out through the station, opening every door, checking every room. She prayed silently. "Please do not find them. Please keep them safe." The prayers are not always answered. The sound came from the cargo hold. A high, scared sound that cut through the silence. Bora's distress cry. The smallest cub had been so frightened that it could not stay quiet. Una tried to run, but a soldier grabbed her arm. She could only watch as 3 soldiers went into the cargo hold. She heard shouting. She heard Rin's angry roar. Then there was silence. They brought the cubs out in restraining nets. The metal mesh was designed for adult Velthari, too strong for the small cubs to break. Rin was thrashing and biting at the net, trying desperately to free itself. Kessa was frozen with shock. Bora was crying, calling out the same word over and over. "Emma? Iyama! Iyama!" Taiho turned to look at Yuna. His face showed the first emotion she had seen from him: surprise. Did that creature just speak a human word? He asked. Yuna was crying now. She could not stop the tears. Please, she begged. Please, do not hurt them. They are just children. They are Valtteri, Taiho said. Enemy predators. You have been hiding them here for months. Do you understand what this means? This is treason against the coalition. They are children. Yuna shouted. Look at them. They are scared and alone. Their mother died bringing them here. They have no one else. Taiho looked at the cubs in the nets. Rin had stopped fighting. It was staring at Yuna with desperate eyes. It was trying to reach her, stretching its claws through the mesh. Yama, Rin said. Its voice was rough and broken, but the word was clear. Yama, help. The soldiers shifted uncomfortably. They had trained to fight Valtteri. They had learned to fear them. But this was different. These were not warriors. These were babies calling for their mother. Taiho was silent for a long time. His jaw was tight. His hands were clenched into fists. Commander, one of the soldiers said, what are your orders? Yuna fell to her knees. I will accept any punishment, she said. Do whatever you want of me. Put me in prison forever. I do not care. Just please, please do not hurt them. They are innocent. They are my children. Something flickered in Taiho's eyes. A memory, maybe. A feeling he had pushed down long ago. He had a daughter. She was 5 years old, living back on Earth with her mother. Taiho had not seen her in 2 years. He missed her every single day. He knew what it felt like to love a child more than your own life. Looking at these 3 small creatures reaching for a human woman, he saw something he did not expect. He saw a family, not enemies, not monsters. A mother and her children, terrified of being torn apart. Taiho closed his eyes. When he opened them again, his face was still hard. But something had changed behind his expression. Everyone out, he ordered his soldiers. Wait by the ship. I need to interrogate the prisoner alone. The soldiers hesitated. This was against protocol. But no one questioned Commander Taiho. They left the cubs in their nets and walked out of the docking bay. When they were gone, Taiho looked at Yuna for a long moment. Tell me everything, he said quietly. From the beginning. And this time, do not lie. Yuna told him. She told him about the crash, about the dead mother, about 3 scared cubs huddling in the darkness. She told him about the cold night when they crawled under her quilt. She told him about teaching them to speak, about watching them grow, about becoming their Yama. When she finished, Taiho was quiet. Bora was still crying softly. Rin was still watching them both with desperate eyes. If I report this, Taiho said slowly, you will be executed for treason. The cubs will be taken to a research facility. They will spend their lives as test subjects. Yuna nodded. She knew. Is that what you want? She asked. Is that what you think is right? Taiho did not answer. He walked over to the nets where the cubs were trapped. He knelt down in front of Bora, the smallest one. Bora looked at him with wet golden eyes. It did not hiss or growl. It just looked sad and scared and small. Yama, it whispered again, looking past Taiho toward Yuna. Taiho closed his eyes. He thought about his own daughter. He thought about what he would want someone to do if she were alone and afraid in hostile space, and he made his decision. Commander Taiho stood up slowly. His face was calm, but Yuna could see the battle happening behind his eyes. Duty against compassion. Rules against love. Everything he had been trained to believe against everything he knew was right. He walked to the nets holding the cubs. For a moment, Yuna thought he was going to give the order to take them away. Her heart stopped beating. Then Taiho pulled out his knife and cut the nets open. The cubs tumbled free. They ran straight to Yuna, crashing into her arms. She held them tight, all three at once, crying so hard she could barely breathe. Rin wrapped its arms around her neck. Kessa buried its face against her side. Bora just kept saying, "Iyama, Iyama," over and over like a prayer. Yuna looked up at Taiho through her tears. Why? Taiho watched them for a moment before answering. Because this is not what we should be. Hunters of children. Destroyers of families. I did not become a soldier for this. They will punish you, Yuna said. When they find out what you have done. They will not find out, Taiho replied. My report will say this station was empty. No life signs detected. The crash debris was too damaged to identify. The decommissioning can proceed, but you will not be here when the crews arrive. Yuna shook her head. I do not understand. Taiho walked to a storage container and pulled out a data chip. There is a transport leaving from the next sector in 3 days. It goes to the outer colonies. Frontier space where coalition law does not reach. People there do not ask questions about where you came from or who you are traveling with. He handed her the chip. This has credits. Enough to start a new life. It also has false identification documents for you and 3 passengers. The passengers are listed as members of a small alien species called the Veldari. They look similar to Velthari, but are known to be harmless. Yuna stared at the chip. You prepared this before you came here. Taiho almost smiled. Almost. I prepared it while my soldiers were searching the station. I thought it might be necessary. But why? Yuna asked again. You do not know me. You do not know them. Why risk everything to help us? Taiho knelt down so he was at eye level with the cubs. Rin watched him carefully, still not trusting. But it did not attack. Somehow, it knew this man was no longer a threat. I have a daughter, Taiho said softly. She is very small, very brave. I have not seen her in 2 years because of my duty. I miss her every day. He reached out and gently touched Rin's head. The cub flinched but did not pull away. If something happened to me, Taiho continued, if my daughter was alone and scared somewhere in the galaxy, I would want someone to help her. I would want someone to be brave enough to do the right thing, even if it was against the rules. He stood up and looked at Yuna. You did the right thing. You showed kindness when the whole galaxy would have told you show fear. That deserves to be protected. Yuna had no words. She simply nodded, holding her cubs close. Taiho moved to the door. My soldiers will report seeing nothing unusual. They are good soldiers, but they are also human. They saw children calling for their mother. They will not speak of this. He paused at the door. You have 2 days to gather your things and reach the transport point. I will delay the decommissioning report as long as I can. Thank you, Yuna whispered. I will never forget this. Do not thank me, Taiho said. Just raise them well. Show them that not all humans are enemies. Show them that we can be better than our fears. Then he was gone. The next 2 days passed in a blur. Yuna packed everything she could carry. Clothes, food, tools, the few personal items that mattered. Her grandmother's quilt went in first, carefully folded into her bag. The cubs helped however they could. Rin carried the heavy containers without complaint. Kessa made sure all the tools were properly organized. Bora carefully packed its little plant, the one it had been growing for months. When they were ready to leave, Yuna took one last look at the station that had been her prison and then her home. She thought about all the lonely nights before the crash. She thought about the fear when she first saw the Velthari symbols. She thought about the joy of watching her cubs grow and learn and love. Goodbye, she said quietly to the empty hallways. Thank you for bringing them to me. The transport to the outer colonies was crowded and uncomfortable. Nobody looked twice at Yuna or her 3 small companions. Out here on the frontier, strange families were common. Everyone had their own secrets. They settled on a small moon called Haven. It was a rough place with simple people who minded their own business. Yuna found work as an engineer. The pay was not much, but it was enough. She built a small house with her own hands. The cubs helped. Rin was strong now, able to lift heavy beams. Kessa figured out how to make the electrical systems work better than the original plans. Bora planted a garden around the house, filling it with flowers and vegetables. It was not an easy life. There were hard days and hungry nights. There were people who looked at the cubs with fear and suspicion. There were times when Yuna wondered if she had made a mistake. But every night, when she lay in bed with 3 warm bodies pressed against her, she knew she had made the right choice. Years passed. The cubs grew into adults. Rin became tall and powerful, with scales that shone like deep ocean waves. But it never forgot how to be gentle. It became a protector of their community, helping those who were in trouble, standing between the weak and those who would hurt them. Humans and aliens alike came to trust Rin. They saw not a predator, but a guardian. Kessa grew into a brilliant engineer, better than Yuna had ever been. Its curious mind found solutions to problems that had stumped others for years. Kessa built machines that helped farmers grow more food and systems that brought clean water to poor villages. Its reputation spread across the outer colonies. People stopped seeing a Valkyrie and started seeing a genius. Bora became a healer. The shy little cub that had cried for its Iyama discovered a gift for making others feel better. Bora learned medicine and care and kindness. It opened a small clinic where anyone could come for help, regardless of species or ability to pay. Bora's gentle touch saved many lives, and Yuna watched them all with pride in her heart. She grew older. Her hair turned gray. Her hands became wrinkled. But her eyes still held the same warmth they had always held. The cubs never moved away. They built their own homes close to hers. They visited every day. And every night, no matter how old they were, no matter how tall they had grown, they came back to her house. They would lie on her bed, curled around her like they had done when they were small. Rin at her back, Kessa at her feet, Bora under her arm. The old patchwork quilt spread over all of them. Ayana, Bora would say, nuzzling against her like it was still a cub. Tell us a story. And Yuna would smile, her old heart full of love, and she would tell them about a lonely woman on a broken station. She would tell them about a crashed pod and 3 scared children. She would tell them about a cold night and a warm quilt. She would tell them about the choice that changed everything. And they lived together, she would finish. Her voice soft with sleep, until the stars themselves forgot how to shine. The cubs would hum happily. Their mother was safe. They were home. Outside the window, the stars burned on forever. The galaxy was full of war and fear and hate. But in that small house on that quiet moon, there was only love. A human woman and 3 predator cubs, who had found each other against all odds. A family that never should have been, but was. Yuna closed her eyes, surrounded by the warmth of her children. She smiled, and she let them stay.